All right, let's talk Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, we worked our way through rookie mini camps, through OTAs, through mandatory mini camps. The coaches, the players, the new additions all together integrated in this team as we get ready for the 2025 season. And there's one new addition, one rookie in particular that everyone, media, coaching staff is really high on. In fact, how they plan to use this rookie says a lot about his potential. We'll get into that report and some interesting data in just 1 second. But first, I am Nick. That is Andrew. This is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Seattle Seahawks, look, to be totally honest, they had a great draft. We've covered it a lot, whether it was in the first round, steals, even some undrafted free agents. But one guy, second-round selection, Nick Amon-Wari out of South Carolina, has gotten a lot of praise, and Bob Condata over at the Seattle Times has highlighted some of it, especially what the Seahawks coaching staff is planning to do with this young safety. Let's pull up this report here, then we'll talk about it more on the other side. This is courtesy of SI.com. Amon-Wari, the 35th overall pick in the draft, explained Condata, figures to be a starter over the next few years somewhere in the back seven of the defense, most likely at safety, his listed position. But for 2025, he may have a specialized role working in 5 and 6 defensive back sets as a third safety. That's important to understand because teams are very wary in the NFL to have a third safety. They just don't like doing it traditionally for a lot of different reasons. Most teams only do it when the third safety option is a versatile playmaker who has an exceptional talent. Amon-Wari appears to be that kind of player. The report goes on to say that could put Amon-Wari in roles to defend the run, cover tight ends, running backs or slot receivers, and even rush the passer. Amon-Wari spent time during 2 practices open to the media working with outside linebackers and rush ins for a period or 2, said Condata. With a 4-man base secondary safeties Julian Love and Kobe Bryant and cornerbacks Witherspoon and Woolen, specialty packages figure to be his primary role this season. That's important to highlight. In fact, the report went on to say that Coach Mike McDonald said they've been throwing a lot at Amon-Wari, seeing what he could become as a playmaker in their defense. It's important to think that that specialty role doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to play a lot. It means they've got a very specific use for him based on Amon-Wari's skill set. And if you look at his performance at the collegiate level, you can understand why, because his skill set is very, very unique. Let's pull up this chart here to highlight what I'm talking about here. This is his PFF grades across the board, his last year at South Carolina. You can see left to right, his overall grade, run defense grade, tackling grade, pass rush grade, and coverage grade. So you can see his overall grade's really good. Run defense a little bit below overall, tackling elite, pass rush about the same as run defense, coverage elite, right? These really good numbers, really good skill set, really versatile too, I might add. A lot of safeties, their run defense grade may not be very good, their pass rush grade is usually quite terrible, and their tackling grade can be a little up and down all over the place depending on their safety. In fact, some safeties, if they're really good at run defense and tackling, they may lack in coverage. But you can see Amon-Wari here. He is really good across the board with only slight dips in run defense and pass rush grade. His data, his analytics, his skill set compares very favorably with one current All-Pro safety that Mike McDonald is very familiar with, and that is Kyle Hamilton of the Baltimore Ravens. In fact, they're almost the identical player. Let's pull up our next chart here. This is Amon-Wari, the same data from the previous slide, just translated over to this new graph, comparing it with Kyle Hamilton's PFF grades his last season at Notre Dame. And you can see they're the exact same player. Amon-Wari in blue, Hamilton in red. They almost mirror each other almost perfectly. In fact, the trend is even the same for both these guys. Amon-Wari and Hamilton's overall is good. The run defense a little bit below the overall. Both have better tackling grade than their overall grade in college. Pass rush for both of them about the same as run defense, and both had very good coverage grades at the collegiate ranks. I mean, they're almost the same player. The data is, it's actually kind of striking when you look at it, how crazy they follow each other. In fact, if you look at this, Amon-Wari actually in the SEC, no less, playing for South Carolina, had a higher grade than Hamilton did. Now, I'm not going to come out and say that Amon-Wari is going to be better than Hamilton his rookie year or better than Hamilton overall. That would be a very, very aggressive take to make at this point. But it's very clear they're the same style of players, same skill set, and that's exactly what the Seattle Seahawks plan to use them in very early on. We all know the Seattle team. They made a lot of big-time moves this offseason in terms of retooling towards the future with some transitionary players like Kupp, like Sam Darnold in between. But there are some key cornerstones, young guys on this team that were already there that they're building around. And I think when it's all said and done, Amon-Wari is going to be the guy from this class. I know we know Zabel. I know we looked at Milroe. We'll talk about some other guys, of course, over the coming days, weeks, and months. But I think when it's all said and done, Amon-Wari, day one, is going to have the biggest impact among this entire rookie class and be a cornerstone of this defense for years to come for the Seattle Seahawks. He has the same kind of playmaking dynamic skill set that Kyle Hamilton did, and Hamilton transformed the Baltimore Ravens defense from a good group to a great group the moment he arrived in Baltimore. I'm expecting Amon Warrior to follow that same track and have the same kind of impact for Seattle this season and in the future. All right, Miles, I know you've got a few thoughts on this, but first, Seahawks fans, in the comment section below, got a really interesting question for you. We're talking safeties, we're talking defensive backs. This one's a hard one. Who, in your opinion, is the greatest defensive back in Seattle Seahawks history? There are a lot of names you could choose here. Of course, there's Legion of Boom era has a plethora of them, but maybe you're thinking outside of the box. Maybe you've got a different way to take it. Give us, in your opinion, the best Seattle Seahawks defensive back in team history. Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest news out of Seattle?
Yeah, Nick, I think when you talk about this comp from Manwari and what he's going to be able to do in this Seahawks defense, it's really exciting to think of the Kyle Hamilton comp because I think what you said, it's spot on and it's really just a great opportunity for Mike McDonald to get back into the role of the Seahawks, the back end of this defense, and Nick Manwari to really flourish and do some really good stuff early on in his career because we all know Seattle's back end of their defense is not bad. Bryant is decent. He had 72.8 overall grade last year. Love had a, renaissance last year, best year of his career, 82.2 grade for him. So good safeties on the back end. And you think, okay, well, how's this rookie going to slot in? What are they going to do? If we go back to the Kyle Hamilton reference you had, you look at the Ravens 2022 depth chart, the year that Hamilton came into the league, you have him, and then you have uh, Chuck Clark and you have Marcus Williams on the back end of that defense. Both guys doing really good. Chuck Clark, kind of the veteran, green dot leader, vocal voice of the defense. Marcus Williams, the talented playmaker they got from New Orleans, did a lot of really good stuff that year. And you think, how could Hamilton fit into that defense? What more could he have brought? Well, Mike McDonald figured out a way to do it. And in fact, he gave Kyle Hamilton a lot of great opportunities to do some good stuff. And he ended up being the highest graded safety in all of football that year in 2022 with 82.3 overall grade. And you look at what he was able to do, they fit him in any chance they got. He had 35 snaps at the defense on the line of scrimmage on the defensive line. He had 105 snaps in the box. He had 304 snaps in that slot corner position and even had 11 snaps out wide as like a standard outside corner. So they got Kyle Hamilton in any way they could, and it worked out really, really well for him. So for Imamwari, going back to this, Mike McDonald is the perfect guy to complement someone of his skill set, get him into the game as far as any position they need him into, make him do really well. But as we saw with Hamilton early on, he's able to put them in positions to succeed. You think for a young player lining up in the box as like a linebacker S type player, being on the defensive line rushing, whether you're in the slot, whether you're back at free safety, whether you're outside corner, it can be a lot, but it seems like Mike McDonald has the formula and the know-how to have these guys succeed and play at a really high level even early on with so much switching around, so much changing up at the position. So I think this is really exciting news for the Seahawks. I think you're going to be excited about Manwari. And we talk about Kyle Hamilton slipping out of the top 10. Baltimore is able to get him just because of that situation where they're able to get him at 14 in 2022. I think people are going to see Manwari as how did this guy slip out of the first round? How was Seattle able to grab him, in the second? I think this is going to be a big renaissance for the safety position for Seattle. We'll go back to the days, like you said. Tough question to answer. Who's your favorite DB for Seattle? Nick Manwari may be one of those guys very, very soon.
You bring up a great point, and we talked about it years ago at the time when the Ravens selected Kyle Hamilton. We're like, what a steal, because he was such a great player coming out of college with all of the same skill sets and all the same attributes that Amon Mori has. And they said, look, he fell out of the top 10. What a great get for the Baltimore Ravens. They got him, at 14, I think you said, if I remember correctly. And so we're looking at the time, we're like, what a great deal for Baltimore. And it worked out wonderfully for them. Amon Mori falling all the way to the second round, pick number 35. That is a chance to be the biggest steal of the year. We talk about massive steals. A lot of people think of, it's undrafted free agents or 6th-round picks or 5th-round picks or whatever. And yes, those certainly can and often are. But sometimes it's getting top 10 caliber players out of the top 10, getting top 10 caliber players that can be dynamic playmakers and be perfect fits like Amon Mori certainly is. I believe so. in the second round. That has a chance to be like earth-shattering steals, to really just recalibrate your entire defense. And remember, that's what Hamilton did for Baltimore. People forget, in 2021, the Ravens had the 22nd, 22 out of 32 ranked defense in the NFL according to PFF. You entered Kyle Hamilton the following season, they leapt all the way to number 6. That's what adding one dynamic playmaker can do for a team, what one dynamic playmaker can do for a defense. And let's look at what the Seattle Seahawks have to face in the NFC West. You have two really smart offensive-minded teams and coaches, Sean McVay with the Rams, Shanahan with the San Francisco 49ers, and you have Kyler Murray, down there with the Arizona Cardinals. They do a lot of funky stuff, dynamic stuff with him. So when you look at Amon Wari, he can be the answer to those smart strategies. He can be the guy to blow it up and make life very hard for McVay and the Rams and Shanahan, the 49ers, and kind of cancel out a lot of the funkiness and athletic ability that Kyler Murray can bring to his opponents. I think Amon Wari isn't just a high-value guy, isn't just exactly what Mike McDonald needs and looks for in terms of a playmaker at the back end of the defense, that he can be a chess piece to move all over. He's also a perfect fit for the opposition the Seattle Seahawks have to face. And this is sort of the anatomy of just a perfect, massive draft steal. When you have all of these factors aligning, coach understands, and it's a perfect fit. He's a dynamic playmaker that fell out of a position he should have been drafted in because of factors that don't make sense, like teams not evaluating the safety position like they should. And he also fits exactly what the team needs to face in terms of their opposition, their opponents. This is a perfect get for the Seattle Seahawks. And look, they had a great draft. We talked about Zabel, talked about running back Martinez out of Miami. He's a steal. Horton out of Colorado State, wide receiver. If he can stay healthy, he has a chance to be a 6th-round playmaker. Milroe seems to be developing very nicely up to this point. He's got a long way to go, but the trajectory is good from him as a young quarterback. Overall, it was a great draft for the Seattle Seahawks. But when it's all said and done, I think this kid out of South Carolina, Nick Amon Wari, he will be the name to remember from the 2025 class.